And we'll begin with an invocation. Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for everyone that's here, Lord, to contribute to the mission and goal of the assessor's office. I ask for your wisdom and guidance today as we carry out our duties. Amen.
Amen.
All right, first up is the approval of the minutes of the last regular business meeting. Do I have a motion for approval?
Move to approve the minutes of the last business meeting.
Second.
All in favor? Motion carries. Any additions or deletions to the agenda today?
I do not have any, Mr. Chairman.
All right, do I have a motion to approve the agenda as submitted?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor? Motion carries. Next up is administrative. We have some conservation covenants applications to review. Be a share.
Hey, good evening. Yes, our first category is early out. Miss Grizzle is selling her property, so she requested to be removed and for us to send over her breach penalty.
Gotcha. All right, do I have a motion to approve the early out?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries.
And the next one is we have two mid-years. It's just they sold their property and change of names, and so we just did the normal process.
Got it. All right, do I have a motion to approve the Cuba mid-year changes?
Move to approve Cooper Media.
Second.
All in favor? Motion carries.
Okay, and the next one is Georgia Power took some property from the Tyner family, so they submitted documentation, so we have to change the acreage that was originally on their application, so they came back in and we processed that.
All right, do I have a motion to approve the conservation covenant being recommended for removal due to eminent domain with no penalty?
Move to approve.
All in favor? Motion carries.
And our final one is a removal due to death, no penalty, death of an owner, the Usher family.
Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Sharon. All right, next up is personal property refund request.
Hi, this is the one that we pulled off, last week because y'all had a few questions and I dove into it a little bit deeper. I am not gonna be able to pronounce the gentleman's name, so I'm gonna call him Mr. Valentine. He recently provided us the bill of sale for his boat that he sold in 2021. He's never filed a return. He paid for 21, 22, 23, and 24. After we talked, he realized that he still had to pay 21 because he owned the boat on January 1 of 21. So he's only requesting 22, 23, and 24. It is the same boat. What has happened is that he had a marina slip and let a friend use it for the 2000 Carver. He, a few months later, bought himself the 98, 99 Carver. But because it was registered on the DNR through Gwinnett County, not through Hall County, we picked it off the marina list, which is why it's listed as the 2000. The marina never updated the actual boat there, but it is the same boat. He's only owned one boat and he owned it for less than a year before he sold it. So he was not a boat gentleman at all. But we are recommending approval to go to the Board of Commissioners because he did provide us with a bill of sale that he did sell it in 21. Any questions?
You have a current vote?
I'm sorry?
Does he have a current vote?
No, he does not.
There's no vote.
No boat at all. He only owned one boat his whole life, less than a year.
Gotcha. All right, do I have a motion to approve the personal property boat refund request?
I move to approve. Second.
Any discussion, questions? All right, all in favor? Motion carries. Thank you, Rebecca. All right, real property refund request.
This one is on a, HOA property that we have verified is a mandatory HOA. We picked up, the community pool, last year. They paid the bill on it and then realized this year, the management company realized this year that they were receiving a bill on an HOA property and contacted us and they requested a refund for what they paid last year, and we do recommend approval by policy. It should be paid at $1, so it doesn't generate a tax bill.
All right, do I have a motion to approve the real property refund request?
I move to approve. I'll second.
Any discussion or questions? All in favor? Motion carries. All right, next up, comment. We had some good feedback on some comment cards for recognition.
God bless you all. You don't hear that often.
It's very nice.
We'll take it when we can get it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I notice, I see some of these have names listed on them, but some do not. I do see, looks like Lisa's been recognized by name, Wazine. Making sure I don't overlook anybody, I don't wanna deny anybody credit. I see Lisa and Wazine listed, but I know these that don't have names reference other staff, and it's collective team effort, so I like to see the positive feedback, and there's, looks like quite a bit of it here.
Yep.
Great job, everybody. Any comments on that from the board?
Good job.
Keep it up, we appreciate it. All right, administrative update, phone calls.
Well, before we go to the statistics, I was gonna talk a little bit, kind of piggybacking off these comment calls.
Oh, okay, sorry, you got us back
No,
up.
kind of leading into our next thing.
Okay,
You guys hear me okay? I can't tell you on the fly.
A little bit
A
closer to
little
the
bit.
mic.
is your mic
Closer-
on?
Closer to the mic, closer to the mic.
Turn your volume up.
Sorry. Last week was really the first full week since notices had went out, and due to just life, I had several staff members out at different times of the week, funerals, surgeries, just different things. And the phone calls picked up, the traffic picked up, and like that very first comment card says, you know, the staff as a whole pulled together. I mean, we had appraisers volunteering to come up and help answer the phone. There was part of one day where John and Steve were both up front helping customers answer the phone. I mean, it would really make you feel good because we all pulled together. I mean, it was a lot and we were all tired when we got home every day, but, you know, we got it done. You know, we got the customers helped. The majority of the questions are about the notices being different. You know, people are used to seeing the estimated tax, they're used to just being able to tell everything. And so that's what a lot of it is. A lot of it's just talking to the taxpayer, letting them know you got your exemption, pulling up the Q Public and getting their estimated tax form. And that, you know, that made them happy. I was able to get all the voicemails, the girls didn't have to do that, and I was able to get everybody called back the same day or the next day. And that way I could filter out the ones that did need to talk to an appraiser, and the ones that did, you know, I got them to an appraiser. Homesteads are up, they're really up, so we're gonna be dealing with that, and, you know, one concern I have is, when all this is over with, and we'll show you the statistics in a minute, processing all these homesteads. You know, we're gonna have to process them, we're verifying when they come in, but we're gonna have to verify all the ones that come in online, get them entered, and because of no fault of our own, we're gonna be sending over a bunch to the tax commissioner's office at one time. And that's just because, you know, with the new legislation. Now, we're glad that the taxpayers gonna be able to get these exemptions, because, you know, we've been fighting for this for years. But it is gonna cause a lot of extra work. I'll let John go into statistics.
And I'm sure some of the others may have some comments on some of this stuff, but on the, so if you're looking at the homestead, you know, Janine talked about how many they've got. So far, they've received 420 homesteads. Of those, 263 of them have come in online.
That's on page 26. You didn't know already.
It's in the blue at the bottom of the page. And 263 have come in online, 157 have come in people walking into the office. So about 2/3 of them are coming in online, people are using the website to file their homestead applications. And as Janine was talking about how many homestead applications we're getting, if you look at the top on the appeals, currently we have 283 appeals entered. So we have about 1/3 more homestead applications than we have appeals right now. More people are coming in to file for their homestead or doing it online than they are appealing. You You can look at, we broke it out for y'all, you know, what class they're appealing the most, and right now, early on, it's residential, which is always the case. Most of the commercial, and there'll be more residential, but just because there's more residential parcels. But we'll get the bulk of the commercial appeals will come in at the end of the appeal period, that's always the way it works, the tax reps wait to the very end to file them. And again, online, right now, we're sitting at 58% of of the appeals we've gotten have come in online versus being mailed in or dropped off in the office. That's the highest percent online that we've had. The highest that we finished in the past was 40% for the total year, so we'll see if this trend keeps up and we put it out there so people wouldn't have to get out and come in. Hopefully people are starting to take advantage of that. Some interesting facts. Of the appeals that have been filed, 55% of them are appeals where people have homesteads. And the reason that's important this year is because the homestead, the new laws, the 581 and the local legislation, limits the increase in taxable value, and these people with homesteads, their base values are either the 23 or 24 value, depending on where they're at and which part of their tax bill applies to that. So, over half the appeals we got are people who have homesteads. Over half the appeals with homesteads, their asserted value is not lower than their taxable value. So even if we didn't defend our value and just gave them their value, it wouldn't change their tax bill. So it's, you know, we're stuck, you know, defending, putting work into something that for most people, once they finally get their tax bill, they're never gonna notice a difference. And we've looked at, you know, some other things, looking at that, how that's not taking that back any. We have almost 40,000 homesteads in our counties, 39,000 and something odd properties that have homestead. We've got 420 new ones. We'll be over 500 by the end of the bill period, easily. Of the homesteads that are in place right now, we did ran some numbers the other day. About 90% of those will see a reduction in their tax bills from last year. So those bills are going down. We currently have, you would think that would lead to fewer appeals, but because the notice is so confusing, it doesn't put the taxable value anywhere on the notice. You have to be able to know how to work out tax calculation to be able to look at the bottom of it and see that you're getting any kind of exemption and know that it's gonna be saving you money. And even then, you can't calculate the whole tax bill because you don't have enough information. But the notice is so confusing, these people are still appealing, even though they don't realize that their taxes are actually going down from last year already. And so, right now, we do have fewer appeals than we did last year. It's still early in the process, but at the same point in the appeal period last year, we had 355 appeals as opposed to the 283 that we have right now. That puts us right about 80% of what we had last year. Previously, we had talked to some other counties and they were getting half or a third of what they got last year. So it looks like in Hall County, for whatever reason, we're gonna be closer to our last year's number than a lot of other counties were. I don't know what the reasoning behind that is, but people are appealing. Did you talk about your phone calls?
No, I didn't.
I'll let you talk about your phone calls.
Yeah, talking about everybody pitching in to help, I ran a report that I can run with phones, and I just did the phones up front. And from August 6th, which was the day after we mailed notices, to yesterday at 5, we had over 1,000 phone calls. That's why it took all hands on deck last week and part of this week, just making sure we could answer the phone calls, so people didn't have to leave messages, or we could get them answered as quickly as possible. So I expect that number to go up definitely. You know, usually in the middle of the appeal period, it kind of slacks off a little bit. And then that last week or two, it'll really spike again. Like John said, that's when we get the majority of commercial appeals, or just procrastinators who wait till last minute to do stuff. So it'll be interesting to see how we end up with all these numbers when the appeal period is up.
Absolutely, and if I'm looking at this, 14th day of appeals statistics, so it looks like, because I'm assuming this isn't, we're at 80% of the volume of appeals from the prior year, is that correct?
Right, and what I did is I looked back last year, the date the appeal was made, and counted out 14 days from the first date, the date that we mailed notices, and used those numbers compared to the 14th day in the appeal period this year. And this is as of this morning, so it was, we may have a few more appeals in by now, but I ran it as late as I could to give you the most current information that we had.
So 58% of those are done online, so we're happy about that. It's much easier to process an appeal that you get electronically than you do regular USPS, because you don't have to deal with paper. It's huge, it's a huge help, so we're hoping that was my goal, is for at least 50% of the appeals be done via electronic, so hopefully we'll be able to increase that in a few years.
Good deal. All right, thank you very much for the update. Any questions, comments from the board? All right, we kind of covered a little bit there, phone calls, homestead applications, and appeals, so did we
We got one more thing on appeals.
more on appeals? All right, so let's go over that, final bullet there on
I'd just
appeals.
like to tell you that, and as you know, because y'all received an email about this, the Fox Factory appeal has been resolved, at 42,885. It's 42,885,000. So, legal is in the, well, actually, we're doing a settlement agreement, and, we're not gonna have to do the normal appeal paperwork that you would, so we should be able to take care of that pretty quickly.
Excellent.
Just let you know.
Perfect. All right, thank you for that update. Next up is 2025 LOA policy.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, Ron actually he's out sick today, but he was actually the driver on putting this together and working with, legal to make sure that it met all the requirements. Steve and I were both copied on it though, so we'll give you a little bit of update. The LOA, it goes along with appeals. For the past couple of years, we've had problems with some agents filing appeals and not actually being the agent of record with that owner. We have one in particular has a history of filing appeals and then going back to the owner later and said, see, I can save you some money, pay me. So they have to have a letter of authorization to file the appeal. So we've got with legal to make sure that we could craft a policy that would require them to present the LOA at the time of the appeal, so that we could avoid that situation where last year we had one of those agents file an appeal on a property that another agent filed an appeal, so we had a fight between two agents over who had the right to appeal that property.
Wow.
So we're trying to avoid those kind of problems and avoid putting a lot of effort and work into working an appeal that the person really doesn't have the right to make. And so what this would do would require them to present us the LOA before we actually enter the appeal as an active appeal. And it lines out what information needs to be contained, the minimum amount of information that needs to be contained within that LOA, so that we can verify that they actually do have authorization from the owner. So, with y'all's permission, we can add this as an amendment to the policy and procedures manual, and we can put that into effect.
And has legal reviewed that policy?
Legal has reviewed it. I don't know if Nate had a chance, but I know Ron sent it to Justin, and he looked it over and said everything looked good.
I spoke with Mr. Waham before I came down here today, and he reviewed the language.
He reviewed the language that was proposed by Ron and had no issues with it.
No issues with it? Okay. All right. Does the board wish to vote on this? Any board members wish to vote on this now, or would y'all like time to review it, study it, consider it for the next voting meeting? Any feedback on that? Either way, I've read it, I've studied it, and I have no questions or issues with it. It seems pretty straightforward. It seems pretty consistent with the Department of Revenue's guidelines as well, so. All right, well then with that, if there's no objection to it, do I have a motion to approve the LOA policy?
I move to approve the LOA policy.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor? All right, Motion carries.
I'll make that amendment to the actual, policy and procedures manual, and if y'all want an updated copy with that amendment, let me know, I'll send it out to you.
Perfect. I think would it be appropriate too for the board to sign a new form with that
I don't think it's
amendment?
required if it's just for an amendment, I mean,
No, I don't believe that's required.
I think that what we need to make sure we do, John, is to, answer Eric's question and to ride along with what Nate said, is to make sure where we insert in this, the policy manual, that we put there at the end of the actual policy, the date that it was adopted by the Board of Assessors. And so it'll live forever in the policy and procedures manual that way. And then any other policies and procedures we have, we can do the same thing. Does that sound okay, Nate?
Yeah, that sounds fine.
Okay.
All right, perfect, that sounds great. All right, thank you very much. Moving right along. 2025 revised notices.
So there's a list of different ones on there for various reasons. The bulk of them are, we had a couple of parcels that, through some sync errors, there was about 3 of them, and Steve wound up, 2 of them actually called him, so 60% of the people that had this problem called him, where they actually, the sketch itself got duplicated on their property record card from the sync system. And as we were looking for that, we started looking for a couple of other issues. And so we had some places where there were a few properties where, the basement was labeled incorrectly as first floor or something like that. So the bulk of these is to correct those issues. They're all, all of those will go in the taxpayers' favor. I'm sure they'll be happy about it.
All right, so a motion to approve the 45-day revised notices.
I move to approve.
Motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. All right, thank you, John. All right, next up, Chief Appraiser's Report, 2024 Preliminary DOAA Study.
Of course, we've already sent this out to the necessary folks, and we've responded back to the Department of Audits that we've received the studies we're required to do. And of course, this is good news. The overall average assessment ratio is 39.93. We're 0.07% off of being exactly at 40. And so that means public utilities will be assessed at 40% without any sort of stumbling block there. When you look at the different classes of property, the medians are pretty tight, and that's because Senate Bill 346 has come out of play. Next year, we expect this sales ratio to be similar, but not exactly in these other categories at 40. And you can see the CODs are really low too. So after this year, we expect that COD number to increase as a result of the data that they're reviewing against the actual sales. But this is good news, and so our statewide equalization ratio is 39.93. No deficiencies or penalties or what would be forthcoming.
And during my tenure on the board, that's as close to 40% as I can remember. That's pretty darn good.
Yes, sir, congratulations and good work to the present staff and everybody else as far as that's concerned, because all the data that goes into this, so.
I couldn't agree more. I know that represents a lot of tedious work, a lot of hours, but it's gonna make you feel good seeing that number so close to 40%. Yeah, great work, everybody. All right, any questions on the Department of Audits and account sales ratio study? All right, moving right along, one-day personal property seminar.
Yeah, I joined Rebecca in going to the one-day personal property seminar in Statesboro, and there are probably 7,500 people there. And Rebecca participated in a presentation there about short-term rentals with one of her colleagues from Gilmer County, I believe. And so they talked to us about gathering data for short-term rentals and appraising short-term rentals and what have you. It was very educational. Rebecca did a great job. she got in front of those people and made her presentation like she had done it many times before, and she may have done it many times before, and I just don't know it. So she represented Hall County very well, and so I was excited about that, and, I put her on the spot and asked her several questions myself, so, but she handled everything well. And so it was a good seminar. We learned about some solar panels. We had a really good presentation from a gentleman that works for a personal property auditing firm. And, then Kelly McCormick, who is our former chief appraiser, deputy chief appraiser here, who is with McCormick Solutions with his uncle Terry, made a presentation regarding Power BI and how you might use that with personal property. And so that was really good too. So, Hall County was represented well, Statesboro, personal property seminar.
Excellent.
Very good.
Rebecca, I'm gonna put you on the spot. Why don't you come up and tell us about your experience as far as how you felt about it? And give us a chance to brag on you publicly.
I did speak on short-term rentals with, Donna Walker from Gilmer County. Lacey was there, she is the deputy chief in Gilmer County as well, several other personal property appraisers, talking about how to value, especially the ones that do not file a return, or the ones who only list bedroom furniture and everything else is left off. We went into detail about, how to gather the information, how to find them, especially for those that are not under a business license. Hall County has a big problem because we only have a requirement within the county for a business license for a short-term rental. So if you're in the city of Gainesville, the city of Oakwood, Flowery Branch, etc., we are going to have to match those up with the maps. Our maps on QPublic, the maps from Airbnb, the maps from VRBO, and those sites do not list exact addresses. So it is gonna be very difficult, but, it will help. It will bring some people in as far as taxes where they should be, being assessed at their fair share. And we are also going to bring those down that, they've never filed, but they may be a small 2-bedroom cabin, and we have them estimated too high. So it will help bring everyone together. I enjoyed it. It has put me on the spot a little bit sometimes. I am not used to speaking in front of a whole bunch of people. I get very nervous even doing a BOE, but I did enjoy it, and I hope to continue working with that group.
Good, well, we're proud of you, and I know, it sounds like you were essentially there to share best practices that you implement here in Hall County.
Yes, and still learned a lot. Solar panels, we don't have a solar farm here in Hall County, but it's helpful to know what to look for those commercial buildings that may have it, because they are taxable under personal property as well. So, learned a lot.
Excellent. Great job, we're glad to hear it went well. All right, next up, senior exemption audits.
Yeah, I thought that since this has been talked about so much, I thought it might be a good idea. And I know you guys we've informed you about some of the results that we've encountered with this. Be a good opportunity to give you an opportunity to ask more questions about it, and let's discuss it. The first document you have in your packet is a document that's been shared, not exclusively, it says for internal use, DE, but it's been shared all across the community and within the organization. And this was presented to me by Zach Prost and asked me if I had a copy of it, and I did not. But basically, this was presented to the school board to show them how much money they were losing as a result of people or properties getting the total school tax exemption that didn't qualify. And based on the auditor's results. A couple of years ago, the tax commissioner's office was funded with an auditor in their office to do homestead audits. And the auditor was tasked by Ms. Eden to do audits on school tax exemptions exclusively. And this is a summary of the results that they have estimated. And to not bore you too much, but to draw your attention to the disclaimer on this document that I think is important to note is that it says this: extrapolated tax and commission loss based on random sampling of audits done to remaining population of audits to perform. So these tax loss estimates are based on audits that have not been performed. The other day, local civic-minded individuals on a local radio show, Glory's 97.5, they were brought on to talk about this and communicated that my feelings in this statement exactly is that these tax revenue losses were based on estimates to the remaining population of audits to do, so they're not accurate. In other words, it's an estimated number based on audits that have not been performed and over a period of years that are not accurate. The next page, and this is on 38. There appeared to be some discussion about a list, that there was this list somewhere that we had or was given, and there's really that's not accurate. How this works, and Janine can tell you a little bit more about it, but as audits are done on the tax commissioner side, they send us those results and say, we think this person's dead, or this person's moved, or this person has a homestead somewhere else, or what have you. And then we take the necessary action to act on it to make a recommendation to you guys to remove it or go back in prior years. And so the audit results that I just went over with you was regarding about 265 or 70 parcels or applicants. As that time went on, as we get that information, we take the necessary action to, if it proves out to be accurate that the person has passed away, for instance, or that they've moved, or excuse me, don't continue to qualify, to take that action. Well, here on page 38, you can see of the 265, what the results were. And of the 265, there were 50 of them, 19%, that should not be removed at all. So had we just taken it at face value, at the auditor's face value, and recommended to remove the exemption, we would have removed 20% of these exemptions that they continue to qualify. Also, of the 265, 210 of them were people that had passed away. We affectionately refer to those people as dead people. These are folks that they qualified at the time of application, but between sometime at the time that they applied and this time, or the time of the audit, they had passed away. Oftentimes, and probably more times than not, the property remains in the name of the person that passed away for some period of time. It's not transferred immediately into a estate or into another person or the heir's name or to another person's name, period. Occasionally that's done, but most times there's a delay in that. And so if somebody, owns a piece of property, they apply for the exemption, they qualify for it, but they pass away, you can't just read the Hall County obituaries and find that out, number one. Number two, we have no dedicated auditors. Some of Janine's staff and Janine herself take the time to do that on a regular basis, and we do discover people that don't continue to qualify, and we receive other information from other sources, even other counties, that people are getting homestead in those counties. And in the cases of these estates, these people that have passed away, it's the board of, well, let me back up a second and just tell you that your policy is that in cases where we discover someone that's passed away, even though it might have been 3 years ago, we discover it, we remove the exemption from that tax year forward. We don't go back in time to try to assess a tax on someone that's dead. And so that's been the board's policy since 2014, and this board and several iterations of this board prior to you have continued to approve that policy. However, in cases where someone might have a homestead exemption that's duplicated, whether in this county or another county, for instance, we may discover somebody has a house here that they're getting homestead on and a house that's common, in Florida, for instance, they're getting homestead exemption there. If we discover that's going on, then we'll remove it here and go back the appropriate number of years, which we go back 3 years. The county in in the state of Georgia, every county can go back 7 years if they choose to do that. Most counties only do 3 years because we can only refund back 3 years. So we generally don't go back 3 years. We could if we wanted to, but we only go back 3. And originally, the Board of Assessors and the Board of Assessors iterations up until this board agreed that it wasn't appropriate to charge back taxes on people that were no longer living. And I think that that was a good choice. The board could go back and the estate would have to pay it. Obviously, the person that's passed away is no longer, have the ability to pay the tax, but the estate and the heirs would have to do that. Also, it's important to understand that in cases where someone passes away, there may be an individual that lives there that's a part of the family that qualifies for the exemption that the person that passed away qualified for, and they can continue to get the exemption. So we can't just always remove the exemption just because the person's passed away. There's a lot more research that needs to be done. And so I thought that was important to let you know this, and I have, I don't have it on my schedule, but Mr. Probst, Zach Probst, is wanting to schedule a meeting with Will Schofield to discuss document number 1, because he's concerned about his revenue that he's, not getting, which is understandable. He's protected for that. But I think it's important to understand, this was reported in the Gainesville Times as well, and it left a lot of information out that was not accurate. I've done an interview with the Gainesville Times and told them exactly the same information that I've shared with you. And I reported that, I think, to y'all as well via email. The Gainesville Times hadn't followed up with an article since my interview, which, maybe they felt like it was not necessary to do it and there wasn't a story there, but certainly, I think your policy that you currently have, you can change it if you want to, but I think that, I'm not asking you to do that tonight, but I think it's compassionate and it's practical and it's a good business decision on your part. But if you decide that at some point to change it, you could do that and then we could continue on in whatever fashion you would like for us to. So I just wanted to report that to you, that we're not accepting applications and approving applications or asking you to approve homestead applications where people do not qualify. Did you want to add to that, Janine? I said a lot, but I don't know, you might want to talk about how that audit process goes in the back and forth with the tax commissioner's office.
Yeah, like Steve said, it was actually me and one of the other staff members went through this list, and what happens is we have a shared folder with the tax commissioner's office, and they would put files in there that the auditor did, and when we had time, we would go in and research them. And that's what we did with all these. All these had been processed for 25. So for the notices that went out, we have cleaned all this up. And, as an office, we've been talking for several years about the need for more help doing homesteads. Because the way Hall County is growing, and with no more staff than we've had, it's almost impossible to keep up anymore. We do the best we can, we look for everything we can. So, we welcome that they were able to give us some, and we got them cleaned up. And that's why I'm excited that we finally have gotten the role and this other position, and I
That
would,
was good. Thank you for mentioning
I go out.
that. No, I was just,
No, it was just thanking you.
I was saying, thank you
Oh,
for
yeah.
mentioning that.
Yeah, cause that's gonna help us a lot, it's gonna give us a chance to better clean up stuff and keep it cleaned up. Like I said, the way Hall County's growing, it's just gonna be more homesteaded properties gonna be coming on the books, and we do want it to be correct, so that everybody is paying their fair share.
And we have 420 applications so far during the 45-day appeal period, and we'll probably end up having closer to 700 by the end of the 45-day appeal period. And there will be people out there trying to purposely submit a fraudulent application, because we know these people are, and they've already talked about that as a game plan. But we'll be watching for it and making sure that everything T is crossed and every I is dotted. If you remember, we got True Roll is the name of the company that we contracted with to help us with homestead audits, and it's more of a service than it is software, but there is a software piece to it where they will have access to all these data sets and data sources, and they'll be able to look at data all across the country and the globe for that matter. And if someone's getting a homestead exemption and has a primary residence in the Bahamas, we're gonna know about it. And we'll be able to, we'll have red flags and we'll have yellow flags. Red flags is probably gonna come to you pretty quickly, and we'll probably remove those and then make the appropriate recommendation. Yellow flags will be where we need to do some more research, maybe send a note to the person to ask some more questions. And the big thing is that this software also, and this service is gonna give us the ability to recognize when people are approaching or have already passed that date where they, for instance, turn 70 and qualify for the total school tax exemption. We'll be able to recognize that even though we don't have their birth date in the system, and we'll be able to send them a note, a letter, or what have you, to let them know that you just turned 70 and you may want to consider applying for the total school tax exemption, which you qualify for. I think that'll help to establish some goodwill and help people get the exemption that sometimes elected officials so frantically want to take it away from them. And so I think that'll help to establish some goodwill, and us having control of that process, I think will also help to take the politics out of it and be able to do our part in valuing people, establish equity, and protect revenue.
And along with True Roll, if memory serves, we've been granted a staffing position to help implement that software and put it into full use.
Yeah, I call it the Tax Digest Reconciliation Coordinator. It'll be more than just that, but that person will be the project manager of this process. And so they'll have lead responsibilities over people as well, and it's gonna be super important for that person to pass along this information to our staff and make sure it's all the different letters are sent and the notices are generated, and communication with the tax commissioner's office when necessary. And so it's gonna be a high level operation, project management position, and I'm looking forward to it. We just have to find a place for them to sit, because we're running out of room.
I know y'all already know this, I just want to remind everybody, point out, the True Roll was not contracted because of this.
Right.
The True Roll was something we were negotiating and dealing with the company a year ago, before this ever came up. And the other thing, Steve covered a lot of things about about that first document and about the percentages of these people that still qualify for the homestead. So the first thing is 19% of those still qualified. So if you assumed that calculation on that document is accurate, well, you can right off the top take 19% off that, because those people still qualify for the homestead. The other thing is the 210 people who passed away, depending on when they passed away, they still qualify for that year. If I'm not mistaken, that calculation is projected backward for multiple years. So if that person passed away in 24, that calculation doesn't apply to them for multiple years prior to 24. They still qualify for that exemption in 24. So that's not part of what should have been calculated in the estimated uncollected revenue. So that number, there's multiple reasons why that number is not accurate.
Good points. Any questions or comments?
What do we, when somebody dies, how do we normally find out that we need to take them off of the homestead?
When we can do audits, we searching local obituaries, things like that, that's the only resources we have. We're not tapped into any kind of, the health department's database or the state database that records records of death or anything like that, so we don't get any notification. There's no law that requires somebody to notify us that they've died. So it's just what we can find, and that's the good thing about True Roll, is they're gonna be scrounging all of those resources that they have to find those things. Whereas the best we can do right now is sit at the computer and Google search,
Which is
for that.
Which is way too much time.
Yeah,
To
It's very time intensive, yes.
I'm very, I think y'all know this, I'm very self-critical of my businesses, and so here, I want us to be awesome. You guys have handled this awesome, thank you. And, the one note is, I think getting this information to other departments too would be very helpful to them. Because you've explained it perfectly, and it makes perfect sense as to why this document's not really helpful at all. And so I think that would be helpful to get that to everybody as quick as we can.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. One comment, that I'll make, and I know Stevie touched on it, I think there's been, some chatter on social media about how when applications, whether it's a change of address, whether it's homestead application, you know, our goal, from the time that I came on the board, I guess coming up on 7 years ago, we were very old fashioned to a degree. We were striving as an office to make it where people could use technology, not have to come in and hand deliver an appeal, not have to sit down and fill it out in the office. Q Public's a great resource, allowing people to be able to calculate their estimated taxes, file address changes, etc. But I think the chatter has been online that once those applications get submitted, they just get processed automatically, which is not at all correct. And I know you can confirm this, but those technological resources are only to simplify and allow convenience for the taxpayers to make submissions. And that's all it is a submission. It is then reviewed by staff
That's correct.
and reconciled and reviewed, and then ultimately presented to the board for a vote to approve or deny. But in no way, shape, or form has any of these resources that are meant to be a convenience to the taxpayers, just an automatic, you submit it, and then it's just automatic, it's automated and processed. That's not at all the case, as it's been claimed.
Yeah,
Pretty
and,
far along.
right, cause, just like, before mail out notices, you guys had an approved list of where we sent people emails saying, you know, missing information, that kind of stuff. Cause when they come in online, we still, you know, verify the names, the address, everything, and if something's not right, we notify the people. So yeah, it's not a rubber stamp, we still do the same audit process we do as if they were to come in the door and say they wanna apply. So,
I would imagine that human review of these applications is how you call address change signed by Daffy Duck
yes.
a while back.
Yeah,
All those applications, I mean, the technology exists to take that application and insert it straight into the database. But we have several limitations that prevent us from doing that. And number one is just the human review. We still want a human to review the information
Right.
and make that decision. And number two, in this day and age, you know, counties, security awareness for MIS and rightly so. You know, there's people in the world that are just hacking government organizations just for the heck of it, so allowing an outside person to have that, access to make those updates is very difficult. And with some of our vendors, I mean, we're limited by what we can do in that form by if a vendor supplies that option, and we just don't currently have a vendor that's gotten to the point to where they're ready to do that. It's still very manual, even though the submission is electronic.
Right. Excellent. Well, that's all I have. Any other questions, comments on that from the board? All right. Thank y'all for that update. I appreciate it. That's very good information, and I know there'll be more to talk about that in the future, I'm sure. All right, Tyler Technologies discussion.
It's been a few months ago now. As a matter of fact, it might have been last year, when we discussed with y'all a demonstration that Tyler Technologies was gonna present to us about software they have, the CAM software they have. And, Tyler Technologies is a company that owns a lot of software components and packages for local government. And, the tax commissioner's office, I think they've been granted the money by the board of commissioners, and I think they've already signed a contract. They signed their contract?
I don't know for sure, but they
I'm sorry?
had already,
That meeting, yes, they said they.
Yeah, they've signed their
Already
contract.
started mapping, they would've showed it.
The tax commissioner's office is gonna go on, it's called, Enterprise, is the name of the software. Used to be called IAS World, now they call it Enterprise Tax is what they call it. They have a tax piece to it, and they have a tax billing piece to it, tax assessment piece to it, and an administrative piece that's sort of in the middle. And so, the software that we use is WinGap. Costs us $3,500 a year. And, also, WinGap has a, tax commissioner piece that's called, GTS, which costs $60,000. And, it's a similar, integrated database system between the WinGap and that piece for tax commissioners. So that's out there too. And there's other software applications as well. We're in the process, we had a meeting Monday, with administration and the tax commissioner's office. We had this meeting on the insistence of the tax commissioner, Ms. Eden, to talk about the pros in terms of going to this new software. And, what efficiencies would be gained and what have you. It's an integrated system, meaning we're working with a single database, and that single database is constantly being changed, and then there are certain things like potentially ACOs and appeals and things like that that could be more effectively communicated across the hall electronically that we're not able to do just yet. We have some more research to do on that, and I've already done a lot of that today and yesterday, both John and I have. But to talk about it a little bit from a cost perspective, before I can make I'm not here to make a recommendation, and we wouldn't be ready to make a recommendation that you consider a software change until we've had full time to vet it, and we are in the process of setting aside a couple of days for them to come do a full demo for us. But the annual subscription fee for this software is $348,197 a year. And then there's a one-time professional service fee of $520,637 to be billed in monthly increments in the first 10 to 14 months or 10 to 12 months of the project implementation. So in year one, they give a client discount on the annual subscription to get it to the $348,197. Thank you very much. And with the one-time professional fee, the cost of implementation in year one up until deployment would be $868,834. Mind you, we pay $3,500 a year for the software that we currently use that we technically don't need to change. From each year after that, you'll have to pay, every county that's on this software pays a subscription fee, and it's for support and services and that sort of thing. Year two, that fee is $401,700. Year three is $420,429. Every year thereafter, it's a 5% increase from that point forward into perpetuity, There's additional pricing notes. There's out-of-scope hourly rate of $175 an hour for out-of-scope pricing. Now, I sent you guys, the rest of my documents are not on here in the thing, Janine, but I can't. Anyway, there's some other documents that you should have in your packet that I sent to be put in there. There was 3 documents. One was the attached professional services schedule, which showed that 520 spread out over 10 or 12 months. Normally a project like this is a 14-month project from beginning to end. You have, the initial, meeting that you would have to kickoff meeting. Then you would have the process of going through the mechanics of data mapping and conversion, testing, meeting all the deliverables, identifying the faults to a go live date. So in the normal course of doing things, a go live date for me, if we were both on it, both TaxCom and us, would be us going live first so we could work in the system to prepare for assessment notices to be sent and then produce tax digest. In order to be able to make a go-live date work that we discussed in this meeting on Monday for 2027, we would have to do our research, and we will, and have a recommendation back to you and administration by the end of October. So it's pretty quick, but it will be easily done. Some of that research I've already started on, so has John. And so the plan is to do this, is that we're gonna talk, I've already talked to 3 Georgia clients today, a tax commissioner and 2 chief appraisers. And, I have someone at the Department of Revenue I'm gonna contact about digest submission about, you know, I don't think the Department of Revenue is gonna say, this is better than that, but I wanna see if I can get some feedback from them. John has contacted the chief appraiser over in Cobb County. They run Tyler over there. And so I'm gonna take a team of us over there, and we're gonna let them take us on a tour of the product. They give us and sit down and talk to them, what do you think, you know, how does this go? Something of this magnitude takes a significant amount of project management. You cannot implement something like this without additional resources. And so, I've already thought about this. I'm starting to put it in writing in terms of, and I've already told administration, not once but twice in this meeting, that we wouldn't be able to, even if we loved this to death and wanted to do it, we were gonna have to have additional staffing to make it work. First of all, you have to have dedicated project management through this process, because this is no kid's feat. This is really important, big project. We're talking about a multi-million-dollar project, because it'll be the similar numbers that we have over on the other side, so to speak. It's a huge investment. And so I can't just expect John to continue to do his day-to-day and do this too, project management. And also, after implementation and deployment, there's gonna be the maintenance of it from day to day. Support's different with an organization that's this large. And I'll be able to, when my research is done, come back and give you a report in terms of scoring the organization on support and maintenance and what have you, in terms of what their clients really, how they feel about the product. I've already talked to one chief appraiser that converted from this product back to WinGap.
We talked about this one before.
We have, it's probably been 6 months ago. And so, but we're gonna reconsider it because 2 things. The tax commissioner wants to, an integrated system, WinGap has an integrated system available. These numbers are probably pretty much, the tax commissioner's office could have a WinGap integrated system for $60,000, and they can have them converted and up and running in a day. And the reason I know that is because I talked to the developer today, and we had that discussion. I talked to them for maybe not an hour, it's probably 30 or 40 minutes. And they have that product running in Georgia in various counties. So right now, in my business mind, I couldn't sit here and make a recommendation to go to something that I can't. I wouldn't be able to spend this much money in my lifetime on WinGap. So the fiscal responsibility is important here, and what kind of bang for our buck. We get something better, that's what I need to find out. And so Tyler does have some really important business partners that would be helpful for us to leverage. And some of them we were already doing business with, TrueRoll, Just Appraised, and CounterCloud. They have good user group conferences as well, which are IAAO type user conferences. So I'm telling you that to let you know that it's in the works. And Janine, we need to make sure that we send those other documents that I wanted to have in their packet. I need for you to send that to them first thing in the morning, so they have everything that I intended for them to have. And so, and those documents are just official documents from Tyler that back up the numbers that I have on this Word document. So you can see that. So, administration's role in this is that they would like to see an integrated system. A couple of years ago, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, they installed ERP and Munis up in finance, and I think there's a building inspection piece to it. It seems like there's another piece that Fleet Tyler has governmental software pieces. And so, in good faith, we need to make sure that we investigate this to the degree that, we need to, so I can come back, or we can come back and make a recommendation to you, so that we know we've done our due diligence, and then up to administration. And so, from a fiscal standpoint, just that, it doesn't make sense. But what are we gonna get for that? You know, is that, and so that's really, do y'all have any do you have anything you wanna add to that in terms of?
No, not really. I mean, there's no doubt that Tyler produces a good product. They're a big company, been around, this is their area of expertise. It's just a matter of, like Steve said, bang for the buck. I mean, we're perfectly happy with what we have now.
Right.
It works for us. We don't have we're not out looking for something different. It's just a matter of, with this amount of expense and the additional employees that we would have to have, that you gotta calculate into that expense as well, when we've already been asking for additional employees to do other things that we need. We still need those additional employees that we haven't gotten for, we're spending the taxpayers' money, are we spending it wisely? Are we getting that amount back?
But who's pushing this so hard?
Tax commissioner?
Is the 868,000 shared between both offices?
No, that's just us,
Just our portion?
just our portion.
And is her portion just as large?
I have not seen those numbers. I've only heard by word of mouth that they're similar.
It's a lot of money. Yeah. I would hope that there'd be, if it's gonna be strongly considered, there would have to be exponentially more benefits considering the exponentially higher cost. I mean, I know we're not the finance department, we don't make those decisions, but I would just say continue doing your due diligence and find out if there's exponential benefits to be gained, and
we will.
then report back to us.
So we plan to make a visit to Cobb County. And I've got some other chief appraisers and users I'm gonna talk to. I'm gonna talk to Glenn County. Glenn County's been on top of it for a while. Another chief appraiser down there, they have a good office. And matter of fact, Tyler recommended we call them. The other people that I called, they didn't recommend we call them. They didn't mention them, but I just knew that they were on Tyler and I had a relationship with them, so I called them and got some feedback. And I already have it in writing here on my tablet, but I'll have to produce it. And we'll have to make a decision on how y'all feel about making a recommendation up the line.
All right, any questions, comments? All right, next up is public comment. Did we have anyone sign up for a public comment?
No, sir.
No? Oh,
She now wants.
we do have one.
Yes, we do have one.
You have the form still, she could at least just sign that for the record. Fill that out for the record, please.
Okay, so I am not against auditing or correcting errors, but we should be working with each other to a common goal of accuracy, not towards a gotcha in these various departments. That's one thing. Two, senior exemptions. Why are senior exemptions the big talk of everything? Why was that the first grouping of people, excuse me, that needed to be audited when there are a lot of other exemptions? We don't hear anything about auditing the CUBAs or any of those other groups. So, you know, if we're gonna be fair, let's not just stick to the seniors, because already the seniors have to be 70 years old in this county. versus our surrounding counties are 65 when their senior school exemptions, kick in. Secondly, it is illegal to file fraudulent forms, and I think people need to remember that it's illegal to do that. It's not fun and games, and this is getting serious. If the county finance department, and the commissioners, and the tax commissioner's office are very concerned about, whether or not our exemptions are being accounted for correctly, then I sure wish that they had approved all 3 employees that y'all requested for this year instead of only 1, because you can't work with no people. So we need to seriously consider that, those additional people need to be added if, this situation is going to continue on. And if the tax commissioner is so worried that the tax assessor's office is not doing a good job with, keeping up with the exemptions, then, Ms. Eden should not personally pass this task annually to the tax assessor's office. She should retain the, authority given to her to manage it her own self in her own office instead of sending it over to y'all. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Ms. Harris. All right, any assessor comments? Jennifer? Ann or Linda? All right, I have no comments as well, so with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. All in favor? Motion carries, we are adjourned. Thank you very much for being here.
506.
Twice as long as the last.